Hi, everybody. My name is Alex, and I live at school with my mom because our house burned down. But I will begin with a short story about myself. I'm a regular guy who goes to high school and is the captain of the football team. The coach was always pleased with my success and said that with such physical qualities, I could get an athletic scholarship. I live with my mother. Dad died a few years ago due to a serious illness. After his death, it became a little more difficult for us financially since it was my father who supported the family. My mother had to get a low wage job, but we still didn't have enough money. We had a house that remained from my dad's relatives. It was small, old, required major repairs, but we could not afford to do them, so we were content with matters as they stand. Unfortunately, our life changed for the worse in an instant. There was a fire in our house, and it burned to the ground. My mother and I managed to escape, but we had nowhere to live. We found ourselves in a terrible situation. We have no relatives or close friends to stay with for a few days. Fortunately, my mother managed to take with her from home a small stash, which she kept in her wallet for a rainy day. This money was enough to stay in the cheapest motel for a short time. I was overwhelmed by this situation because I did not know how to help our family. Since I had long trainings every day that I couldn't miss, I couldn't get a job, and my mother doesn't get much of a salary to save up for rent. A few days later, she found a way out of the situation. Mom got a second job as a dishwasher in the school cafeteria, but that's not the worst part. She explained the whole situation to Principal Smith, and he allowed us to live right at the school. When my mother told me about this, I could not share her joy. After all, if anyone else finds out about this, they will definitely laugh at me. But we still had no other option, so we had to put up with it. Living there was a nightmare. We slept in the closet on old mattresses. At night, it was cold and creepy because of strange sounds in the pipes, and there was also some kind of stench. I didn't manage to hide my shameful position for a long time. One day, a classmate stayed late at school and saw me walking down the hall with my mother in my pajamas. I didn't expect to see him at all, and instead of making any excuses, I just hurried to run away from him. Of course, the next day, everyone found out about this incident. As expected, someone started laughing at me and giving me offensive nicknames, while someone managed to throw money into my locker out of pity. I was so angry that I wanted to teach this classmate a lesson, but then I realized that this would cause even more problems, so I endured all the jeering. The main goal for me was to win the next match, so I took out all the aggression in training. And thanks to my emotions, I began to play even better. But literally the day before the match, one situation happened to me. The fact is that my former neighbor, Fletcher, with whom we got along well, was the captain of the opposing team. He lived a few houses away from us in a luxurious cottage. His parents were successful business people, so Fletcher always wore expensive clothes and had the coolest gadgets. He wrote me a message with a very interesting proposal. His parents owned an apartment that they could rent to our family at a very low price. Fletcher even threw me photos, and I literally fell in love with this apartment. However, he set one condition. I had to let Fletcher's team win the upcoming football game for which I had been preparing so hard. So I was faced with a serious choice to win, but continue to live in school and sleep right in a cold closet on an old mattress, or to lose and to get a cozy home. There was almost no time to think because the match was to take place in 2 days. I thought about this for a long time and weighed all the pros and cons. And I made a decision immediately when I woke up at night from the fact that a mouse was crawling over me. It was such a surprise to me that I screamed and woke my mother. I was so tired of sleeping in a cold closet, enduring all the inconveniences and being branded as a homeless among my classmates. So on match day, I played as badly as possible to give Fletcher's team a win, though I was sick at heart because I had let the whole team and the coach down, but the thought of an apartment warmed me up a bit. But if I had known what was ahead of me, I would have never agreed to such a deal. I kept writing to Fletcher, reminding him of our agreement, but he was silent. And then he even added me to the blacklist, so that I could not pester him with messages, and I realized that he had deceived me by playing on my feelings and despair. The school where Fletcher studied was just in second place in football, and he needed this victory to take first place. For several days, I was not myself, thinking what an idiot I was to fall for such a stupid trick, but it was not yet the worst. The coach was so disappointed with me that he kicked me out of the team and added that I could no longer count on an athletic scholarship. This was a real blow for me because without football, I can hardly go to a good college. I asked the coach to take me back, apologized for the last match, but he remained adamant. All the problems came at once. I was left without a home, without football, and even without a chance for a scholarship. When I told my mother everything, she, of course, was upset, but did not scold me. She just told me not to be so naive anymore. The guilt was eating me up from the inside because I set everyone up, and moreover, I was left with nothing. The guys from the team didn't talk to me, and sometimes they left insulting notes in my locker. Instead of the captain of the school team, who showed great promise, I became a nobody. But I found one plus in this whole situation. Now I could get a job, and I chose the position of a cashier in a movie theater. I thought that with my help, it would be easier for my mother and me to save up the required amount to finally rent an apartment. I didn't really like the job because I had to clean up the halls after the shift. I also had to wash the toilets every night, which made me sick. However, I didn't work there for a long time because Fletcher came to the cinema on my shift. I diligently pretended to not know him, but he started teasing me, laughing at my stupidity, and also boasting that their school is now the leader in football in the city. I could not stand it and got into a fight with him. I so badly wanted to take revenge on him for everything that had happened to me because of him. Of course, my boss saw it all and kicked me and Fletcher out. Unfortunately, this was followed by my immediate dismissal. My adventures did not end there. Fletcher was completely unable to fight, so I managed to paint his face a little. I didn't expect him to go to the police, where my mother and I were soon called. The policeman reported my attack on Fletcher, gave me a lecture on how to behave, and issued a huge fine. Seeing the amount of the fine, my mother almost fainted. We had to give away all the accumulated money. I noticed how Fletcher gloated because he went to the police on purpose to cause me even more trouble. I had a great desire to teach him a lesson again, and I could hardly restrain myself from doing it. After this incident, Mom did not speak to me all evening. She did not expect me to act so recklessly. I tried to explain that Fletcher had provoked the fight himself, but Mom didn't want to hear anything. The next day, the principal called me into his office. Unfortunately, he found out about an incident in a movie theater. Mr. Smith said that he had every reason to expel me from school because I was no longer on the football team. My grades left much to be desired. Moreover, I also started a fight. I broke down and told the principal everything about the situation with the apartment and Fletcher's deception, admitting my guilt. I didn't want to be expelled from school because then I definitely wouldn't have a single chance to go to college. Besides, the school was our only home at the moment. Mr. Smith shook his head, but still made me a favor. He said that I could work here as a cleaner in the evenings to make some money. Of course, I didn't want to be a cleaner at all, but I agreed because I still had no other choice. 2 months have passed since then. My mother and I were able to save enough money to rent a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. We also continued to work together at school. Unfortunately, I was not able to return to the football team, but I began to devote more time to my studies so that in the future I could still go to a good college. What would you do if you were me? Write your answers in the comments. Click on the thumbs up button under this video and share it with your friends. Bye.